All right. Welcome back, everybody, to the Duke Wisdom Podcast. I'm your host, Ben McCormick. I'm here with Clinton Weaver once again for his second episode. We're excited to be talking basketball again. I know that the title of this podcast is Duke Wisdom, a basketball podcast. Some people tend to like to listen a little bit less when we talk about football or baseball or something, especially baseball. You guys need to like baseball more. But we're back. We're talking about basketball because basketball season is nearly upon us. And much earlier than usual, I might add, we have Countdown to Craziness coming up on October 4th. That's this Friday. This episode is going to come out Thursday, so that's tomorrow. It's tomorrow, weather permitting. We've got some crazy weather going on, but I think it shouldn't affect basketball. But very excited for Countdown to Craziness. It is something that I have gone to every single solitary year since 2011. It is one of the things I look forward to the most in the entire year, every single year. And I'm not going this year. It's really unfortunate, actually. It's really, really unfortunate. But I am covering Friday Night Lights. That's part of my job. I cover Friday Night Football. Anything that happens on Friday night from the end of August to the beginning of November is just a no-go for me, basically, unless it's the bye week. And our bye week just happened to be 1 week too early. It was this past Friday. If it was 1 week different, I'd be right back in the stands for Countdown to Craziness. But we do have somebody that will be at Countdown to Craziness. So Clinton, talk to me about your experience with Countdown and kind of what that's looked like for you over the years.
Sure. Well, I moved back to North Carolina after 11 years in New York. Came back in 2021. And so I went to Countdown that year, which was Coach K's final campaign, and then the two that have occurred under John Shire. So I have 3 official countdowns under my belt. But in the old days, way back when, I used to go to what they called the blue-white scrimmage. So I'm really dating myself here, but they used to hold that either before or after one of the football games. Everybody would go file into the Cameron Indoor Stadium. I don't even think you had to have a ticket to watch first string against the second string in the blue-white scrimmage. So Countdown has definitely come a long way since then, and seems to get more technologically advanced every time I go. I really enjoyed the blue carpet walk that they did, I think 2 years ago, where you can stand right next to the players as they come down, not the red carpet, but the blue carpet. And you get a real feel for how big they are, how tall they are. That was, Derek Lively and Kyle Filipowski walking down the carpet, and we were standing right next to him. And you just really don't appreciate how gargantuan these human beings are until you get right there beside them.
Yeah, man, they had me really nervous with that walk because they had it on that elevated surface. And so I'm sitting there watching Derek and Kyle thinking, what size shoe do these guys wear? 16, 17? I'm like, these guys are going to trip and fall off this thing. That was what my brain was thinking most of that time.
Yeah, that was the indoor piece where they were on a very skinny stage. But even before they went into Cameron Indoor, they did a blue carpet walk on the outside where you could be right there standing up against the ropes as they came walking up to Cameron Indoor. And that was 2 years ago. I'm not sure if they did that again last year or not.
Yeah, so they've definitely upped the production value. I think while those first couple of years I went were very cool, they've just, it's crazy the production that they put into this thing now. And one of my favorite parts of Countdown, and I think where most of the production value goes, is into the player introductions. And that's what the players look forward to the most. Tyrese Proctor and Caleb Foster were just talking about it, I think, on the Duke Basketball Podcast, where what's going to be your intro song, that kind of thing. I think these guys eat it up and fans eat it up. I know I did as a kid. I know I still do now. And so I've got some personal favorite Countdown player intros, but I want to hear who is your favorite player intro of all time?
Well, of course, Jared McCain more or less stole the show, I think, last year with his dancing. And I guess it was 2 years ago that Stanley Borden decided to wear a trench coat and pull out a saxophone and play an impromptu solo, which was a very unexpected moment for Countdown. So, I'd say those two memories probably stand out. I'm looking forward to see what they do this year, especially with the new scoreboard and how they might incorporate that. I liked what they did last year with the giant curtains that fell down from the ceiling and revealing the players behind the curtains, standing on a small stage. That was pretty cool. So who knows what they'll come up with this time.
Yeah, I think that was a really cool facet. I agree with the Stanley Borden phrase. I think that was probably my favorite intro of all time. And I've seen every intro in person except for the very first Countdown to Craziness. And him pulling out that saxophone, playing Careless Whisper, I lost my entire mind. And it was in that moment that my girlfriend has come to a couple of Countdown to Crazinesses with me, and she's an absolute saint for that because she is a student at NC State. So the fact that she's put on a Duke jersey even at Countdown to Craziness. Stanley Borden is her favorite Duke basketball player of all time. Let that be known. Without him scoring a single point, he is her favorite player of all time, and Jared McCain might be second, actually. So your two favorite intros are doing very well on her part. I think some other legendary intros that I really liked. Frank Jackson he really busted it down back in 2016. He got down. He had a good one. Trying to think who else. Chase Jeter that same year flipped the water bottle live in person, and that was pretty great. That's probably Chase Jeter's greatest moment of all time at Countdown, or in Cameron, period, honestly. No shade to Chase Jeter, but a little bit of shade to Chase Jeter. Countdown's a lot of fun. I've had tremendous fun going to it throughout the years, and I urge anybody listening who's ever on the edge of, should I go to Countdown? Shouldn't I go to Countdown? Absolutely, go to Countdown to Craziness. And it's one of those things where you get to have fun at a Duke basketball event, and there's literally no stress in the back of your brain. There's no way Duke loses.
True.
So it's always
but they don't lose.
Yeah, it's always a positive experience at Countdown to Craziness, I have found, and so I think that's a really fun experience, especially if you've got kids. Just a tremendous experience for them.
And we should mention that the women's team performs also, and this year they've got a player who can dunk. So we might see a dunk from Toby Fournier, and
I'm so excited to see her play.
Yeah, so they get their flowers, and it's more of a 50-50 production, I think. It certainly was last year, which is appropriate. They should have the same kind of moment in the spotlight that the men do.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because throughout the years, they have really, really increased the presence of the women's team at Countdown to Craziness. And Kara Lawson gets a great welcome into Cameron Indoor Stadium. I think the fans really like Kara, and for good reason. Very good reason. I've got to cover the women's basketball team all year last year. What Kara has done with that team, their defensive presence, they have a lot of talent and a lot of returning talent to this year's team. I think this is a Duke women's basketball team that can make a Final Four push. So you see that team at Countdown to Craziness, make the same noise for them that you do for the men's team, because they've got a very good shot at making this a really good season.
Yeah, she brings a real defensive orientation to the team, and defense wins championships, as they say. And I think we're going to see a very strong defensive team on the men's side as well. And so, I'll go ahead and put it out there. I'm expecting to go to the Final Four this year. And this team looks like they got all the goods to make that happen. They're really together, and they are defensively oriented.
I think anything less than a Final Four, honestly, for this team is not a failure, because I never want to say a failure, but it's a disappointment for sure. And that's the case for most Duke teams. But this one, I mean, Coach K's like actively making himself present at practices and around this team, and I think it's because he can sense it. He knows what a championship level team looks like, and I think that this is what a championship level team looks like. They check all the boxes, right? They have the veteran leadership, they have the returners, they have the defense, the skill, the talent. Everything's there, and it's just, will it all come together? Will they stay healthy? Will they get the path in the NCAA tournament? But I think that there are very few teams that I've seen since maybe 2010 that have the look that preseason I'm like, this is a team that I can genuinely imagine being a national champion. I felt that way with 2015 from the moment I first saw them. I felt that way about 2019 a lot, which ultimately maybe even should have been the case, but they weren't as deep. They didn't have the depth that this team has. And I think that this team just, they have it all. And so for a team that has it all, I guess my question for you, Clinton, is what are you looking forward to seeing the most from them at Countdown to Craziness?
Well, of course, I have to say Cooper Flagg, right? He's a generational prospect, and seeing him in person, seeing his motor, I just want to see, is he what everybody says he is good as advertised? I think back to last year coming into Countdown, and we had all those returning starters, and we were feeling really good about that team, with a blend of incoming freshmen. And I guess I feel the same way every year, coming into it. Like, okay, this is going to be a great team, and we're going to do, go to places and make a lot of noise. And they fell a little short last year, but for some reason, I feel differently. And maybe I'm deluding myself, but I feel differently that this team legit is minimum going to the Final Four. So I want to see Flagg. I want to see Man. I think he could be the guy who steals the show at Countdown. He's my sleeper pick. A guy who can almost touch the rim standing flat-footed. And he seems to have a huge personality. So I think he's going to do something that's going to maybe steal the show.
Yeah, I love Monmalovich. I think that he's such an exciting prospect and such an exciting player. And I think that, I've talked many times on here before about how I think he's going to be raw to start the season a little bit. But I hope that I'm overplaying that a little bit. I hope that he's going to just be an absolute killer defensively, and he'll be able to handle those offensive intangibles and stuff like that. I'm so excited to watch him play, because I think there's not a bigger question mark on any of the players more than him. And so I think that that's why I'm so excited to watch him play. I'm excited to see Cooper play, because I think in the past, these superstar prospects like a Zion Williamson, like a Marvin Bagley, not to say that you know exactly what you're going to get from them, because obviously you don't know exactly what you're going to get from them, but you knew you were getting a high-level offensive player that was going to fill up the box sheet. With Cooper, he's not going to score as many points as either of those guys. I can pretty much guarantee that, honestly. But what he does more than any player of that caliber is he defends with just such fire, such passion that you just don't see in a 17-year-old kid that's rated that highly. You don't see that kind of competitive energy on the defensive end for a guy with that level of offensive talent. So I think that watching him play is going to be something that's really special. It's going to be something that we haven't quite seen before. But I also want to urge the viewer to maybe don't expect 20 points per game, because that's probably not coming.
Well, we'll settle for 19.9. Okay.
Nobody was ever mad at 19.9. There's no problems with that.
He is a freshman after all, so we can cut him a little slack. But where I think he makes his mark is on the defensive end of the court, and he likes to play defense, and there's nothing that seems to please him more than blocking the other guy's shot or getting a rebound. He might play some guard. He might bring the ball up the court. I mean, why not? As long as you got the rebound, start the break. And he's just going to be an exciting player to watch because of that motor, which has no quit.
Want to join a community of Duke accounts publishing news, theories, and predictions on Duke athletics? Join the Duke Wisdom Network. Just go to dukewisdom.org/join network today and fill out the form with your name and social media. Or you can DM at Duke_wisdom on Twitter or Instagram. Become a part of the community of Duke fans publishing their takes today. Again, that's dukewisdom.org/join network. The DM at Duke_wisdom on Twitter or Instagram.
My next question is kind of, let's do some brainstorming. What are we thinking? The 5v5 obviously is not going to involve Patrick Ngongba because he's out with a lingering foot injury from high school after having that surgery as a senior, which is something that I kind of thought might happen. And I've put a thought into that. I'm gonna have a slight digression for a second because I want to get your thoughts on this. I have said that I think Patrick Ngongba might be well suited to redshirt his freshman season. And my thought process behind that is because there's just such a question mark on him health-wise. There's such a question mark on where he even fits into the rotation at all. Unless, and knock on wood, but unless Kaman got hurt, where does Patrick even find minutes to begin with? Because I think when Malawach isn't there, you see a lot of Malik Brown at the 5. I think that's going to be the case. So where does Pat even fit in there when he comes back? Now, I don't think that he's going to redshirt, but my question is, do you think maybe he should?
Probably might as well, unless, like you say, there's some unforeseen event that happens where he is suddenly needed. I count 10 guys on the depth chart ahead of him, and how many times has Duke run 10 deep? It usually becomes 8 and then maybe 7 toward the end of the year, and we got 10 legit guys on this team. It would be nice to have a backup at center, but like you say, Malik can do the job. Cooper can fill in. I think, there's going to be matchup problems if we go small like that. That'll be to our benefit on the offensive end. So I'm not really worried about it, and he should do whatever is best for him medically. And if that means sit out a year, we'd be glad to have him next year.
One thing I know, John Shire, it's that he loves small ball. So I don't think he would have any problem playing a little bit smaller. But honestly, I don't know how small this team can even play. They're probably the biggest team in college basketball. So I'm really not exactly sure that even if you go small at the 5, the rest of the lineup, you could go big. Like your point guard 6'6", your shooting guard can be 6'7" if you want to put Sion there, and you can just fill it out with Mason Gillis, Cooper Flagg, and Malik Brown. And yeah, that's a little bit shorter at the 5 spot, but that lineup as a whole is probably a lot bigger than the one they're going up against.
We know for sure that we're going to have big guards because the smallest one is 6'5", right? And when we play those guys 8 miles down the road, we know how they stack up. They got a couple of Lilliputians over there named RJ and Elliott. So I like our chances there. I like the way we match up. And it's not going to be a small team, like you say. Even if we only got one quote unquote big guy, it's going to be a big team.
So you mentioned those 10 legitimate guys in the rotation, those 10 guys that are going to be genuinely putting their best foot forward to get real minutes. And you alluded to this as well, that when's the last time you see Duke go that deep? Is Duke going to be playing 10 guys in March? Absolutely not. I'll put that in writing right now. They will not be playing 10 guys consistent minutes. Now, I'm not talking about 1 to 2 spot minutes. Consistent minutes. They will not be playing by March. But I can guarantee you that 10 guys are playing on Friday. They're playing at Countdown.
Right.
So let's make our stab at how do you think those teams might be split up in the blue and white game?
Well, first I'll tell you what I would like to see, and then I'll tell you what I think will happen. I'd like to see the legit starting five going against the second five. That's what I'd like to see, because I want to see the starting five. But that's not going to happen. So we know probably that Maluch is going to be, or Malawach, is that how you say it? Malawach is going to be on one side, and probably Malik Brown is going to be on the other. We know that Foster and Proctor are probably going to get split up, unfortunately. And beyond that, there's such interchangeable parts with Con Knipple and Sion and Mason. It almost makes never mind. Darren Harris and Isaiah might be split up. But really, I'd love to see the starting five and watch them go, because, we got potentially, according to the scouts, we got 4 guys that could be going in the first round. And I don't know, have we had that before? We've had 3.
We've had 4. We've had 4 on a couple of occasions. Yeah. We did it in 2022 and we did it in 1999. I know for a fact.
So this is that kind of team, and I want to see that team. I know that's not what Countdown is for, but I would love to see that starting 5 about a month ahead of schedule and see what they look like.
That would be cool. I'm dying to know exactly what the starting 5 is going to be, because I think we know probably 4 of them.
I think
in the starting lineup. But I think for Countdown, and this is for the official bettors, if there's a line on who's starting for Countdown, that's kind of crazy. But this is my official projection. Let's go with Caleb Foster. Let's go Con with Caleb. Let's go Isaiah. Then let's go with Mason and Mon. And then on the other side, that leaves what? Tyrese, Darren, Sion,
Malik,
and I'm missing somebody.
You got K2?
Yeah, him on the other. Well, fill in the blank.
One of those guys.
Fill in the blank. Whoever the 10th guy is that I missed. That's my official projection, and that was just off the top of my head. But I do, for some reason, I think Caleb and Con are going to definitely be on the same team. I don't know why that is. And then here's my other piece on this. John Shire, if you're listening, I know you're listening. I know you listen to every episode. Please play Stanley, Spencer, and Neil. It's Countdown to Craziness. Give those 3 gentlemen 30 seconds of playing time. That's all we ask. Stanley Borden needs to see the floor. He never does. They could be up 50. You got to put that man in there. Give him 30 seconds. That's all I ask. I know you're a reasonable man. That's all I ask.
Is he a senior now?
He is, yes. He's technically a senior, but I imagine that he'll be a graduate student, and he'll probably still be on the team next year.
Yeah,
Neil.
They should all play for sure. I mean, why not? If they're ever going to play, this would be the time to do it.
Yeah, I know. I mean, because my girlfriend, every time she went, she got so disappointed because Stanley never played at Countdown. And I'm like, well, honestly, if he doesn't play here, I'm not sure if he ever will. And he really never does. So I'm sticking my neck out for Stanley Borden and Neil Begovic particularly, because I think Spencer's going to play. I'll put it out there right now. Spencer Hubbard's going to enter that game. But for Stanley and Neil specifically, Stanley mostly, I'm sticking my neck out. On the topic of guys who kind of have a unique Countdown experience, I want to talk about who's going to be the new Christian Reeves. That is a player who just goes absolutely nuclear for no good reason at Countdown to Craziness, has a fantastic performance every single year. I call that the classic Josh Hairston. He was known for putting up double figures every year at Countdown, and love you, Josh. But Christian Reeves had two very, very memorable performances in the last 2 seasons at Countdown and was not able to replicate that at all in the regular season. Do you envision that there is anybody that will kind of have a night where it's maybe not they don't do anything in the regular season, but they just have a way above average performance at Countdown?
Yeah, I was so psyched about Christian Reeves the last 2 years. I was like, put this man in the starting lineup because he looked like a world beater coming out of Countdown. It was amazing. Better than anybody. But for some reason, I feel like Man is going to steal the show all the way around. And he's got such a big personality. I think the crowd's going to love him. And I hope he performs at a level that makes him go wild. I think he's built for that moment. So I'm going Man. I even like the nickname.
Yeah, and I like the nickname as well. I'm going with Darren Harris. Give me 4 or so threes from Darren Harris on Friday. That's what I'm feeling. And I'm not saying Darren can't do that in the regular season. I think he absolutely can. But I think he's less likely to do it because of playing time. But I think that give him those minutes, give him those looks. We all saw the 8 of 8 clip that the team posted. I know he can do it. So I've got Darren Harris as my guy.
And maybe Stanley can get into the game against Incarnate Ward on December 10th. I think he's got a shot there.
John, if you don't put Stanley Borden in the game against Incarnate Ward, we're going to have a word, I think, because that's just not okay, man. Let Stanley play. I'm going to have to start a campaign for Stanley Borden.
Free Stanley Borden.
Free Stanley Borden. That's right. Well, that's all the Countdown to Craziness talk I've got planned for this episode. Clinton, thanks for being on once again. And it's been a blast, and I look forward to all the conversations we're going to have about Duke basketball moving forward.
Sure, and I'll be there Friday night, so I can fill you in as soon as it's over.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for listening. As always, make sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening, and follow Duke Wisdom on Instagram and X/Twitter. Thanks so much, and we'll talk to you.